And I guess, Ashing, that is your first question, Ashing. You may need to elaborate more. I think it is one sentence. The practice of Nianfo, which is reciting Buddha's name, and the concept of rebirth in Amitabha's Pure Land in DDM school. And Ashing, what do you mean? What is your question?
Actually, hello Guo Gu, and hello everyone. Hi. My question is mainly comes from the book by Master Shen Yan, Zen Wisdom. There was a chapter about if Chan is a religion. So when we recite the Buddha's name, Nianfo, it's like all other religions. And it's like we are worshiping a deity or a goddess who is bigger and more powerful than us. And the concept of rebirth in Amitabha's Pure Land is close to heaven or hell, like in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So I just wonder if these things in Nianfo, reciting Buddha's name and rebirth in Amitabha's Pure Land, are these things that we can rely on, or they just come from the cultural context? Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, there is no correct or incorrect way. It's not that simple with regard to reciting the Buddha's name, the divide between what is religious, what is cultural, what is correct, incorrect, what is DDM's position on it. The fact is people practice how they want to practice, whether a person's within DDM or not. So you have to remember all the teachings are catered to particular needs of people, particular needs of people. And this teaching of recollecting the Buddha, the virtue of the Buddha, the name of the Buddha, actually was one of the suggestions of Shakyamuni Buddha. So it's not a kind of a Chinese thing, invention. And he gave that teaching in the context of people who are in fear, the original early teaching, people who in fear or in great need, they can recollect the Buddha. Fear can be facing death, facing calamities. So particular teachings are meant for particular needs, you see. And then the method evolved over the centuries to take the form that it did in China. So in the writings of many different Chan masters and Chinese Buddhist masters, you will see many different approaches. Some will say that reciting the Buddha's name is really reciting, recollecting the Buddha within, and rebirth into Sukhavati, the land of bliss, the Western paradise, is within one's own mind. So you see that early on in Chinese Buddhism, this strand of interpretation continues into the modern period. And you have other masters who advocated, recite the Buddha's name to be reborn in the Western paradise, Sukhavati. So what happens there? Well, Amitabha Sutra says, those who reborn there, they were born into a lotus, and the lotus blossoms, so they're called lotus born. They don't, they're not born from womb. So once the lotus blossoms, they actually see Amitabha of the self nature. That's what the sutra says. So whether you practice Nianfo to see your self nature while you're still here, or you're somewhere else, Sukhavati, the point is awakening. Right? The point is liberation. But the needs are different period of time, different context. So one method can mean many different things. You know what I'm saying? So as for DDM, we have practitioners within our lineage that do practice that. Some want to be reborn in the Sukhavati. Some's reciting this Nianfo as a concentration practice. And once they reach a good state of concentration, they turn the method around and ask themselves, who's reciting the Buddha's name? So it becomes a koan. So for me, I don't compare like one method as a specific thing, and then Judeo-Christian as a specific thing. I see the similarities. These comparisons are only possible if we divorce the method from the reality of how people actually live into an abstract thing. Then with this particular thing has particular features, and look at that, it's similar to this feature, in the kind of prescriptive abstract realm. But as soon as you come down to how people actually lived, actually practice this, they do it for all kinds of reasons, religious, not religious. Some people take, shikantaza, silent rumination, koan, very religiously. People can do anything they want with anything. So you'll have to examine what's the motivation for this comparison. What is it inside? What is it inside us to have this question? Where does this question come from?
Actually, I just want to make one comment. The first time I met Chan, it was through the books of Master Suan Hua, City of 10,000 Buddhas.
Yeah.
But later when I when I read a little bit more, I understood that their main practice is mainly devotion. Like it's considered as Chan, but it was very pure landish, most devotion and beliefs. So I couldn't understand how they put something like pure land of devotion into Chan context. I don't know if I have been able to.
But that's because Chan is made up of non-Chan. What's Chan? Like what's Hasim? Which one's Hasim?
Don't know.
Hasim have all kinds of thoughts, all kinds of experiences. Right? It's just a name. So that's Master Xuan Hua's lineage. They focus on reciting the Buddha's name, and that lineage can be dated back to about 300 years. In the Ming Dynasty, that was the latest version of Chan. Everyone practiced reciting the Buddha's name. And then once they get to a point, they turn it to who's reciting the Buddha's name. It's a very popular approach, right? So it has a history to it. So he didn't really invent it. He said, I'm going to put Pure Land here. It's just part of the momentum of the development of Chinese Buddhism. And it hasn't really adapted to American needs.
Yes.
Western, right? So he's part of the old school, this tradition, but it has a long history. You know, and like I said, in the Amitabha Sutra, the point is to realize the Amitabha of one's own self nature. What is that? Seeing your self nature, you know. So for the populace, the general people who just want to rely on something and get a sense of comfort and so on, devotion is a great practice. It kind of diminishes our self-referentiality, submitting to something greater.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's so selfishness, self-centeredness still is diminished. See, so it's a very useful and approach to practice. So yeah, Chan, how can Pure Land practice when Chan? You haven't been seeing historically what happened. Some people use mantras, esoteric Buddhism, they put in Chan. Same. So Chan has no fixed content. It kept on developing. And even before the advent of Huatou and silent illumination in the 12th century, in the very beginning, the fourth patriarch, lineage master of Chan. That's early. That's like 7th century, 6th century, 7th century. He advocated reciting the Buddha's name, not Amitabha, but he said, you can recite any Buddha's name. Just pick up a name and just recite it, cultivate as a legitimate form of practice. So early on, Chan, it already has this. And then the point is to see into the nature of this, the Buddha, and the nature of the mind. The mind and Buddha merge. So, yeah, Chan has many places.
So yes, sir. So what I understand, to understand the mechanism of a technique is much more important than the form and the name it has.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a good takeaway.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Guo Gu.
Thank you, Ashing. Good question. Thank you, Guo Gu. And next question is from Chen Hao. Chen Hao is here. So one of my current struggle is to understand the strong duality view of justice and injustice. For example, seeing the conflict and vying between ordinary people in difficult situation. I know that I fell into the trap of contrast, but I can't find the Dharma way to understand and reconcile with such a strong opinionated view. And Chen Hao, is anything you'd like to elaborate more of where this question coming from?
Thank you. I don't know how to elaborate to more details, just lots of news events going around at the moment. I feel myself be absorbed into extreme opinion inside. I know there is a way, I know this opinion actually not helpful for me to see my true face, but I've somehow been drawn into it, and it fell into the trap of right and wrong. But I can't find a method, a Dharma theory or method to persuade myself. So yeah, hope Guo Gu can help. point me the right way. Thank you.
Do you have a choice? Do you have a choice to not engage?
I have. Then I feel guilty, as if
Guilty
I'm
because-
then I feel guilty of neglecting misery.
Mm.
I can.
So you want to help the situation, but the ideologues that's perpetuating this situation or promoting the situation is polemical, contentious. So you want to help, but so you're pulled into it, but then everyone in that group that's helping are having these extreme views. Is that what the situation is?
I think somehow I managed not to involve personally.
Wow.
I know somehow I realized that it will perpetuate, put a very strong opinion out there, take a stance of right and wrong. It's only my interpretation. For example, war, or for example, managing the pandemic, public health issue, what is right, what is wrong, very extreme measure, etc. So I try not to put my opinion out there, but be there to sympathize for people's misery, what they are suffering. But inside, I know there is a very strong opinion. And I think a thought is not very helpful. Strong thought will be out there. And someday I will express or influence. So, and sometimes affect my practice, affect my meditation. I get really wound up inside. I can't sit for very long. And I have that grasping thoughts, this is wrong, this is wrong. I know the thought was wrong, the attitude was wrong itself. So far I managed not to engage, but I have a very strong negative feeling, such as despair, sadness, anger. So I hope that, yeah.
So people feel like that all the time because people are tethered, bound by their thoughts and feelings. Maybe they think of something harmful, negative. Their mind is just, their feelings are just kind of pulled towards that way. They think of something happy, joyful. Circumstances are very favorable. They feel they're at peace. So people are just bound by these things. So it's not really the external circumstances. One can always find things to disturb us. So I would put aside that, the issue of social justice, politics, and just come down to the actual connection with people and your own relationship. We have to examine your own relationship with your thoughts and feelings. Don't be so pushed and pulled by it. You can't tell yourself that like a monologue and talk to yourself. Don't do this, don't do that. So you have to have a method to actually ground yourself. Otherwise, if we're not grounded, just pushed and pulled in the winds of criticism and difficulties and so on. So learn to relax. Right? Always come back to the body. Whenever difficulties arise, you come back to the body. You come back to the breath. And the most important thing is you have to examine these thoughts and feelings that you have. It's the relationship that we have with ourselves, which means thoughts and feelings, that we cultivate. That's where practice happens. So these thoughts, these feelings, if they're too random, things are really coming up complicated, encircling a topic, just like you can't let go, and he can't let you go. It's just kind of ruminating again and again. The issue of justice, injustice, justice, injustice, right, wrong, right, wrong. If that's happening, you have to do something. If you already find yourself in that situation, hopefully you don't allow yourself to escalate to that state, you know. But if you already find yourself like this, you gotta do something physical. You can't, you know, tell yourself to change or do something. You gotta just take a walk. Divorce yourself from that context. Don't sit in meditation, because if you sit in meditation, you're just providing the opportunity for the mind to just keep on going, you know. So you gotta get up, clean your house, do the gardening, do something physical. So the body, mind, and, you know, feelings. If the mind and feelings are kind of wrapped up in something, you can't tackle them directly. You gotta go about it through the body. Engage with the body. The more grounded we are in the body, the less we're pushed and pulled by our, you know, thoughts and feelings. So the more in tune you are with your feelings, your subtle thoughts, most of the time of the day, not watch them like a watchdog, kind of guard them, but just relax into this connection that we have with ourselves. The more you are like that, the more they are unlikely to escalate to the point which you can't pull yourself out of it. Right? So the more we're in tune with that, how do we be in tune with that? We have to relax and ground. We're always, you know, grounded, connected with ourselves, embodied. That's the basic thing I can say, because basically the problem is, you know, our thoughts and feelings are all that we've ever known. We've always connected with them. We're always dictated by them. We're always conditioned by them. And that's our go-to. So when we think of certain things, we identify with them. The whole point of practice is that juncture, that relationship between those thoughts and feelings and our presence. They're not you. You know, they're just these conditions. You know, you watch certain kind of news, certain kind of TV. You have those impressions. If you watch some other type of news, you just identify with those. But they change, they come and go, and these are just these polarizing, contentious things. They don't define you. They're not part of you. They come and go. Whereas you are grounded. This relationship that you have, that's the juncture where you see and expose. How is it that you're feeling now? How have you changed your mood? bring it down. Examine. That's practice. When we can do that for ourselves, then we will be more in tune. We have to start ourselves. Then we'll be more in tune with the people that we do end up engaging with. Because we're very in tune with ourselves. When we're with other people, we can sympathize, empathy. And because we are not tethered to these feelings that come and go, when we engage with others, their misery, their suffering, we can possibly help them to also not be tethered. Not be kind of hooked by these things. If we ourselves are like that, then we can help other people. The more we practice, the more we are able to connect with ourselves, the more we're able to connect with others. We can share with them a way. They help other people if they ask for help. If they don't ask for help, it's very difficult. Right? They have to feel they're heard. They're seen. They have to feel the connection. And that's also part of practice. What's your practice background? What kind of books have you read? What have you done retreats and what?
Not much of a retreat. I've done a bit online and a couple of in-person one-day retreat. But books probably because I practice Chinese medicine, so the interrelationship of Buddhism track back a long way, probably 20 odd years. Just in the recent 3 years, more in the umbrella, under the umbrella of Fa Gu Shan structure. Don't know where to start. Yeah, meditation, chanting, reciting sutras, all the Chinese traditional methods, and then Da Bei Zhou, recited Da Bei Zhou for many years. So now it's savior. When I'm in that situation at the moment, I just chant Da Bei Zhou. At least I don't say the wrong thing, don't do the wrong thing, and also send the compassion to the miserable situation. I feel the gazing, observation, examining self, feeling is actually a very interesting process. I see that there is a reason why I get to perpetuating in thoughts itself is interesting, not where it comes from is interesting. But at the moment I'm hitting the wall. Where's the next step? There's a problem, but where do I go from here? I'm hitting the wall.
Where you go from here is to go to the heart of the practice, which is examining your own undercurrent feeling tones, how you are connecting with yourself. Because mantras, dharanis, toroni, Da Bei Zhou, dharanis, mantras, reciting the scriptures and so on, reciting the Buddhist name, so on. The point of this method is to allow the busy mind to come to some state of stability. Right? So it's a temporary kind of shield that suppresses or calms the turbulence. Once it calms, where's the next step? You can't just keep on calming because the thing is still there. Once it calms, it's just the function is really just like relaxation that we do, progressive relaxation, reciting the Buddha's name, reciting the scripture. You can have this other function of intellectually, conceptually understanding the Dharma, but basically is to calm the turbulence. Once it calms, you have to examine the relationship that we have with the workings of the mind, the workings of your heart. The more in tune you're with that, you will be able to kind of work with it. You know. So don't just stay at the level of calming. Things, problem come, okay, calm. I hope you're well. I hope you're well. You have to examine how you actually feel to the situation, how you actually feel to your own thoughts and feelings. And what is it? It's nature. What is this nature? These thoughts and feelings. How does it arise? So examine the mind, examine the heart.
I'm reading your silent illumination, so I sort of get a bit, I feel really resonate with the undertone. I'm examining the undertone at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Zhang, for the question. Thank you. So I think that's all for the lists, question lists. And now we open to the floor. Does anyone has some questions, like to rise and something to share?
Hi, I can't find how to raise my virtual hand. I don't know if that exists anymore. So here I am with my question. Guo Gu, in silent illumination, you say, if you're meditating on the sensation of the breath while cultivating an attitude of interest, then every breath is fascinating and includes new sensation. This interest keeps you on the method. There's no need to get rid of wandering thoughts, just be more interested in your method. I struggle with finding the sensation of my breath interesting and changing. I feel that it's at some point it's okay. I feel it coming in on the side of my nares and it's going out at the top of my nares, and that's the extent of the depth of my love of my method. So I was wondering if you could help with that, because I think that's really important. I think it's really important, and I'm not getting it. Oh.
Everyone's raising their hands.
I can't find it on mine.
No, I'm saying, I think they're saying you're not alone because.
Oh, great. Thank you, everybody. That's always so nice to hear.
At some point, we need to move from, the crutch, props, things that captivates us, to the mind that experiences. Right? At some point, we have to make that transition. So what is the crutch? What is the prop? What is all these fascinating things? The sensations, the breath, I can't feel sensation. I can't. What am I going to do? I can't get the first stage. It's okay. It's okay. Find some other prop. Find some other experience. For example, your abdomen, the rise and fall of your abdomen, okay? And the experience of that. If you need more props, you can move your hands. Meditate. Have you seen me do that?
Yes. Yes.
The
Thank you.
sensation is there. The sensation of the palm, right? Moving. So you allow these things to, these experiences to captivate the mind. The mind gets interested. But the most important thing is the interesting mind. It's the mind that interests, the mind that stays in the present. See, it's not really the sensations, because a lot of people, they don't have sensations in their nostrils. It's just the capillaries or whatever. People that have allergies, people that have damage with the nerve endings, being hit in the nose too many times or something, they don't have sensations there. This doesn't mean they can't practice. Just have to use some other prop. Don't worry. Don't get nervous. Don't make a big deal. It's very important. If I don't get it, then I can't get it. It's okay. That worrisome mind, that's an issue. Expose that. Okay.
Okay.
Even if you sit, if you don't want to move your hand, it's fine. Just the sensations of progressive relaxation, different sensation, bodily parts, ending at the buttocks, the sense of weight. Sense of weight, like there's a computer mouse, like the sense of weight. Just like when we sit, we have a sense of presence, sense of weight. And then move down to earth. And then you do it again until your mind, your heart doesn't need that much props anymore. It can just stay happily at the sense of weight, the present, the connection to earth. Not too many things, just there. And you just experience that. And if that disappears, still you don't need to worry. If that disappears, it's just the experiencing.
Yeah.
Kind of sense of embodied experiencing.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that? It's almost like now and here, when you look at me, the experiencing, the perception of sight. Right?
Yeah.
That experiencing, right? What is it? First, you may be captivated. Okay, I gotta look at an image, or who's here, I gotta look in this way, and so on and so forth. More and more, you move from the image to the actual experiencing itself. Not that which we experience, Guo Gu as a prop. That image is not Guo Gu. That image is generated by Zoom. I don't know how all this works, the images and the digitization, whatever, but that's not Guo Gu. It's a prop. So we focus on, if you can't focus on this prop, you focus on some other prop. And then once the mind is captivated enough, it doesn't need that much prop anymore. Just like you're looking at Guo Gu now, the experiencing. Not the object of experience, just the perception.
The experiencing is very profound. Thank you.
So, I mean, the only reason you find, this experiencing Guo Gu versus your boring breath. It's because there's more things happening here, you know? Basically, it's the same. You know? So more more complicated versus less. So in the beginning, you need more, right? You captivate the mind and you give it more. Then when the mind is settled at ease, it doesn't need much more. You can just mute. Just mute it. You don't need it anymore. Right? It's just the experience.
Okay.
And then when you get there, and you report back, and I'll give you something beyond the experiencing.
Okay. Thank you very much, Guo Gu.
That's a wonderful question, Tori. That was fun. Raise our thumb. So,
Yeah.
right. We have 7 minutes before we can take one last question or anything to share.
Someone raise hand.
Luna.
Yes. Hello. I was thinking about Hashim question. Sometimes or often practitioners, we need to turn to some higher spiritual beings for help, protection, guidance. Buddha, Christ, or some past teachers, or some great personas, spiritual. Are we talking to ourselves, or are these beings really taking care for us? Are we talking only with some attributes of our mind and our spiritual dimension?
Both. When human beings, millions of human beings, focus on something, an image, a person, a persona, like you say, then that persona will come into being. And it will have the power to transform, to help, to guide. If everyone on earth believes there's a being called Guo Gu Gaga, just some random name, but if everyone concentrate their mind, pray to it every night before they eat, Guo Gu Gaga, please pray. If they do that for centuries, Guo Gu Gaga will come into being. And it will have the efficacy to fulfill people's wishes. Now, is that Guo Gu Gaga, or is it the people that made Guo Gu Gaga? It's both. Interdependent. And the collective karma that people create, actions of body, speech, and mind towards Guo Gu Gaga for centuries, you can bet that Guo Gu Gaga on this planet will have a powerful efficacy to respond. Okay? So it's not necessarily, from the Buddhist perspective, the mind constructs our reality. Yeah, that's from the perspective of ourselves. But from another perspective, how do things come into being the way they are? How can people have miracles? Because collectively, the minds are creating the kind of energy that's bringing to presence something. So it goes both ways.
So it's beneficial to our practice to do that. When we need to create some atmosphere, we feel scattered or scared or worried or.
That's what the Buddha advises. 5 remembrances. One of which is, you can recollect your precept, the virtue you have cultivated, recollect your teacher, you can recollect Buddha. Same thing. So it's not a kind of Buddhism is not an idealism. It's just everything's just only in the mind. There's nothing really outside. Even in the Yogacara teaching of consciousness only school, they don't deny Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the different realms of Dharma Dhatu, the different Dharma realm. Of course they. Just in terms of practice, how to transform our vexation, so they focus on that. But so it's not a kind of unidirectional, monotone kind of one. This here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a universe out there. It's a world out there. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Vinod has a question. You raised your hand before.
Thank you very much. I am Vinod. I'm joining from Pakistan. I have attended few sessions last year too. So my question is regarding, I am practicing mindfulness since about 3 years. So when I have started practicing mindfulness, I have observed that in the time of difficult situations, like when I'm anxious or I have a difficult thoughts, there is some discomfort in the chest, or there is some difficult sensation in the body. After practicing, I feel that these sensations I feel like they are more intense. I mean to say, I feel them more strongly than before. So it's like this is due to practice. I am feeling them more strongly. Previously, maybe I was distracting myself from those sensations and I didn't feel them strongly. And another thing, whenever there is like difficult situation, like difficult days, I can't practice. Like there are the difficult thoughts and the sensation, they keep running in the body and keep running in the mind. So how to practice in those situations? Thank you.
Okay, good question. We'll end with this question. So mindfulness is not necessarily Dharma practice, Buddha Dharma practice. Mindfulness can just be a mental exercise in which we're amplifying particular things. If the point of mindfulness is just to be aware, then of course we're going to be aware of a lot of more things, a lot of other stuff. So what distinguishes mindfulness to the Buddhist practice of mindfulness? The whole Buddhist project is the ending of suffering and vexations. Okay? Suffering and vexations. So the purpose of mindfulness is to expose these undercurrent difficulties, physical experiences, emotional experiences, to expose that and be able to transform it. If you don't transform, you just expose, that actually amplifies your nervous system, your neurological nervous system, because it's becoming aware. So you're activating your amygdala, right? Sending out stress hormones, making things worse. So that's not Dharma practice, right? So once we expose, we have to relax the body and transform it. You see, so just by the practice itself is insufficient. We have to relax and transform it with what? With the Dharma. So theory and practice must work together. Right? So we have fear. Then we have to understand the nature of fear from the teachings and how to deal with fear. Right? So once you expose, you got to do something about it. Does that make sense? Right? So right now you're just exposing. And he's overwhelmed with all these different things that you're discovering. So you have to have the prescription. So exposing is only half the equation, like a doctor. Imagine a doctor, you go to the doctor, oh, you have COVID, sorry. Congratulations, you have COVID. And that's it. That's very stressful. The COVID, okay. So you gotta take some, vaccine, go home, relax. There's a prescription, you see? The doctor prescribes what needs to be done now. See, you have a cold, okay, take Tylenol or something. If there's no prescription, it's just exposing, then we fall into the default mode of ourselves, which is stress. The anxiety goes up, you see, because we don't know what to do about it. So you need the scalpel to open and look at what's happening. And then you have to have the medicine that go in. Right? The medicine is Buddha Dharma. Two of the most simple one is impermanence and causes and conditions. Impermanence means new beginnings. It doesn't have to be negative. So that means when you, that's the medicine, right? So when you see the anxiety, you infuse that experience with, it's changing. It doesn't last. Moment to moment, it's fresh. It's changing. It's not here forever because the anxiety mind exaggerates. It thinks that it's here forever. I'm going to die. I'm overwhelmed by it. Blah, 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 blah. You see? So the antidote is, it doesn't change. It doesn't define me. It's not, everything's like that. Everything's continue to change, evolve, transform. Causes and conditions is a teaching, is another way. It means relationships. Cause and things come together because of different causes and conditions. What if I change one cause? What if I change one condition or two? What happens? It changes. You see? So I'm angst. My body, I feel all the uncomfortable sensations. Well, what if I change the condition of the body? Let's see what happens. What if I relax, engage in progressive relaxation? What happens? The thing changes. What happens if I change the condition of the body, like I start walking instead? Just go for a walk. What if I change the condition of the sight? I just look at some distant cloudless sky. Or if I look at some forest and greens, what happens? It changes. There is no permanent, fixed entity to this moment's suffering, miserable, anxiety. There's no self there. So you have wisdom that arises. See? Scalpel, open, that's the mindfulness. And then you have to apply antidote. Understand that all things are just a continual flow of causes and conditions. One thing changes, the flow will shift. Or every moment is just a new, fresh beginning. Positive outlook. And you'll see that whatever we experience, there's always hope. There's always ways to transform. Okay, so you kind of practice that. So the practice, read more about Buddhist teachings, how to apply in daily life. So when the anxieties come, you apply it. You apply the medicine. Now, usually people apply it by intellectually. They talk to themselves, basically. They tell how I remind myself everything's impermanent. That only works a little bit. So you have to read more, understand more methods, approaches that are more embodied way. Focus on those. There's a lot of things out there. Focus on those is more embodied approach to integrate the correct view. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Guo Gu, for your time. All right.